Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today in spite of your occupied schedule. Now we would like to start the program entitled Toyota's Discerning Approach to Car Making and Challenges for the Future, Software and Connected Initiatives. Let us first introduce our speaker today. Our speaker today is Mr. Keiji Yamamoto, Chief Product Integration Officer of Toyota Motor Corporation. Now, Mr. Yamamoto is going to give a presentation. Hello, everyone. My name is Keiji Yamamoto. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us today. Car making today is entering an era where there is a need to focus on various aspects, such as automated driving, electrification, and connectivity. Software has become an important factor in determining product appeal, and as you all know, various players who specialize in software are now entering the automotive industry. Today, I'd like to mainly talk about how Toyota is taking on car making going forward. First, I'd like to look back at the history of automobile development. In the process of becoming a core and leading industry, as it is today, the automobile has continuously changed. The automobile has faced social issues such as oil crisis, exhaust gas regulations, increase in the traffic accidents, and the aging of societies. But each time it has evolved and contributed to resolving those social issues. For example, the use of aluminum and plastic in addition to steel led to reduced weight. The shift from mechanical to electronic control resulted in not only improved fuel economy, safety, and comfort, but also enhanced value of the car itself. A car today is equipped with more than 50 electronic control units, or ECUs, and uses as many as 1,000 semiconductors. Furthermore, society has entered the age of the internet, and being connected has become the norm. Cars as well are now equipped with communication devices, further advancing their electronification with the size of software growing ever larger. Now, when it comes to car making, Toyota has its own basic stance handed down from within itself over the years. And that is, in order to understand the principles, we internalize the important elements of car manufacturing, or doing it ourselves first. For example, since its founding, Toyota has been producing various production equipment in-house as necessary. As a kind of side note, during the recovery from a fire at the Naka plant of Renesas Electronics, our engineering divisions helped by duplicating the drawings of the damaged equipment and manufactured such equipment from scratch. In the 1990s, our company engaged in the in-house design of ECUs and also established an electronics plant, a semiconductor plant, and a battery plant. It goes without saying that these efforts led to the commercialization of the Prius. In recent years, we have made steady progress in internalizing hydrogen-related technologies such as FC stacks and hydrogen tanks, and now taking on the challenge of applying these to hydrogen engines. As you are all aware, Morizo, our president, Toyota, himself is driving and participating in races with hydrogen engine-equipped cars. Thus, Toyota has always built its cars while strongly adhering to the real world, regardless of the era. I hope that I have helped you to see that pursuing principles and promoting internalization has formed Toyota's basic stance. Now, in this era of case, what we are paying attention to is the transition of cell phones. As the shoulder phone evolved into the feature phone and then into the smartphone, the commoditized product of the phone became linked with information, creating new value through new experiences and quickly spreading around the world. This transition has been supported by software and connected technologies. Likewise, cars will become more and more linked to information, and through the movement of people, goods, and things, we'd like to provide new value through new experiences and bring excitement to our customers. In other words, going forward, we will advance our internalization of software and connected technologies. That is why we established TRI, Woven Planet, and Toyota Connected, and working on the development of the e-palette, construction of Woven City as an experimental site, and the development of the Arene platform, and others. Now, I'd like to introduce Toyota's efforts in the area of connected service and technologies and software. To date, Toyota has made 10 million Lexus and Toyota vehicles that are connected cars, mainly in Japan, US, Europe, and China. Toyota's vision of connected car is not simply one of connecting the car to the internet. Rather, it is to provide customers with emotional experiences through the movement of people, goods, and activities. Toyota wants to value a people-centric or people-centered approach. In other words, what we call human-connected. To achieve this goal, we have built our own call center, which serves as a point of contact with customers, the Toyota Smart Center, which provides a variety of services, and the Toyota Big Data Center, which utilizes vehicle information gathered from cars, and we are providing a variety of services. Also, we have established the Mobility Services Platform, or MSPF, to provide mobility services, and are promoting collaboration with service providers. With the e-palette introduced to the Olympics Village for the Tokyo Olympics and the Paralympics Games, our goal was to create mobility that integrates cars and information and that coordinates with the community. Already during the Games, 34,000 athletes and other people related to the event used it. Although the e-palette is a battery EV capable of automated driving, we are developing more than just automated driving and the BEV technologies. We have developed a fleet management system based on the principles of the Toyota production system to ensure effective, efficient, and accurate operation of the e-pallets at the Olympic Village. The system monitors the e-pallet remotely and operates them in a just-in-time fashion according to the surrounding environment and the number of passengers. In other words, it provides mobility that coordinates with the community. All of this has been realized via the Mobility Service Platform, which Toyota has nurtured. In the future, I believe that these efforts will be applied to the Sienna autonomous minivan being developed in the United States for use as a robotaxi, and that the MSPF will be used not only for automated driving vehicles, but also for regular commercial vehicles and logistics. In this way, connected cars and connected technologies will be applied to a variety of areas, and the counterpart of connection will expand from people to cars to communities and to the society. Toyota will handle the information gathered from customers and vehicles with great care and utilize such information for the happiness of customers and development of society while creating new value from experiences centered on mobility.
The new NX, which will soon go on sale, is also a waypoint for such. Multimedia systems and connected service functions will be installed in the new NX as it undergoes its first complete redesign in 4 years. What we insisted on were information gathered at the source and locally rooted product development. Because road conditions and the way cars are used differ depending on the country and the region, there is a limit to the rolling out of a single package worldwide. Connected technologies are useful in considering products that suit each region. To meet the expectation of our customers and society, we developed the new annex in each region based upon the concept of gathering information at the source. Of course, the new annex will be capable of OTA updates of its software. In addition to eliminating the time gap in the introduction of new technologies among regions, we will strive to create vehicles that reflect the ever-changing needs of our customers and local communities. Furthermore, based on the correct understanding of the characteristics of each region in a form of data, connectivity will also contribute to carbon neutrality. Specifically, it would promote energy-efficient and resource-efficient cars. This is a bit off topic, but according to market data, in Japan, the engine is turned off for half of all driving time in hybrid electrified vehicles or HEVs, while for plug-in hybrid electrified vehicles or PHEVs, the engine is turned off for as much as 80%. In other words, HEVs and PHEVs can evolve into environment-friendly vehicles to an ever higher degree by upgrading the switching control of engines and electric motors. Specifically, there is the idea of real-time changing of HEV control according to location and time of driving. The technology for this is called geofencing technology, and we are working to put it to practical use. And the health of a car will be visualized by way of an electronic medical record of sorts using data collected at the source. By performing proper maintenance based upon such a record, we can help increase vehicle longevity and heighten battery recyclability and reusability. From here, I would like to talk about the future of the automotive industry and the possibilities for cars. I believe that, for Toyota, conducting sustainable and practical car making means flexibly responding to the demands of the times and changes in the environment, and providing new values in cars to all kinds of customers through mass production. At Toyota, we refer to mass production as Goguchi, and I am a Goguchi man to the core. I love the work of turning new ideas into products. When I was young, I used to stay in the lab from morning until night, soldering away. My role as CPIO is to bring new ideas to mass production by combining information and the power of software of connected cars around the world to the real-world car manufacturing that Toyota has long cultivated. And I intend to make the making of ever better cars to locally more rooted. I believe that software has the power to promptly turn ideas into products. To achieve this, we will establish the software development structure with 3,000 employees globally in coordination with Webin Planet, Toyota Connected, and ourselves, overseas development basis. And we will promote software development on a global scale. I believe our entire corporate group will have a total of 18,000 employees engaged in this. Of course, Toyota Motor Corporation will also have a full team for in-house software development as well. And for the vehicle software platform Irene, which is being developed by Web Planet, we will separate the hardware from software and review our current so-called rubbing together development. This will make software development more productive, and it will improve quality and shorten development lead time. With Irene, we will be able to deliver new ideas to our customers as quickly as possible, and will increase the number of people around the world who can share in the thrill of commercializing new ideas by using software. Cars are used in a wide range of applications, including as passenger cars, in mass, and as commercial vehicles, and the regions in which they are deployed are expanding. Needs are becoming more and more diverse, and how cars are used is also becoming ever more varied. Against that backdrop are day-to-day problems and broader social issues, as well as smiles and joy and needed technological development. I believe that the value of cars will increase even more when technology is combined with innovation. The automotive industry is still a growth industry. I am so excited about the car making of the future. Please allow me to summarize my presentation today. I believe that it is automobile industry's responsibility to achieve human mobility and coexistence with local communities for the future and for our children. Toyota's goals are to provide freedom of movement for all and to providing inspiring experiences. This is rooted in our production of happiness for all mantra. Toyota has always been a company that insists on internalization regardless of the era, and it has always had a realistic approach to making cars. By combining the power of real cars and software, we would like to enhance the excitement that can be experienced only through mobility. And by going beyond the framework of cars, we would like also to contribute to the development of society, engaging in community development and creating platforms for all of society. I'll be happy if you would continue to support us in our efforts to create cars in the real world. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Now we would like to start Q&A session. If you have questions, please push the raise hand icon on the screen and wait. When your name is called, please turn on your camera and microphone and stand by. And we are going to give you a cue to start speaking. We'd like you to limit to just 2 questions. So I first like to ask Mr. Katori from Yomiuri Shimbun to ask his questions. Now, Katori-san, if you'd like to start your question. This is Katori from Yomiuri. Thank you for selecting me. And first of all, thank you for the presentation. The first question may be very abstract or general, but for the connected, as it expands, I think that the other industries might be coming more and more to the auto industry, and the space is going to be very competitive. But under such competitive environment, I think that you have your strengths, such as internalization and so forth. So would you like you to sum up what you see is the strengths as to when the space is becoming more competitive? And second is regarding the OTA, Mirai and Lexus. You talked about these models lately. And I think that we have heard about the charging or charge-based services regarding the OTA. Would you like to talk about these things? So those are the two questions for me. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Katori. I understood that these are the two questions. The first is in the connected field. What is this, the strengths of Toyota's connected services or systems that we provide? Actually speaking, when it comes to connected, TMC started the offering of such service back in 2002, very long time ago. At that time, it was not called as connected, but it was called as telematics. And this is G-Book. The name of the product or the service was G-Book. The purpose, the primary goal of doing that back in those days was to expand the touch point with the customers and offer better car life to the customers. So we, as a manufacturer, tried to increase the pleasing services or the services that would be satisfying the customers, racking our brain. So based on such intent, we started the launch of the connected service in the name of G-Book. And at that time, as I covered in my presentation today, we tried to internalize the infrastructure for the connected services. We had our own call center, and we established a smart center and so forth, through which to provide the services. And this information we made during the past 20 years have evolved furthermore. The customers' feedback and also the voices from the dealers. Based on that, we have implemented many Kaizen activities. And what we have today is based on such voices and opinions from the customers and dealers. So this internalization, I think, is a strong weapon for us because we are able to update the systems and update the services as we try to adjust to the needs of the customers. So I think that that would be the first strength that Toyota has in the area of connected. The service which is centering around the customer's car life is the so-called B2C service. But as we entered into the 2010s, the electronics platform also evolved. So the ECU data is now available to be extracted from the vehicles, and therefore the vehicle control information data can be collected and stored at the center. And if we analyze those vehicle data, we will know many things. For example, the road condition, or in the environment, for example, the weather. All those things can be also known from a wide range of data collected from the vehicles. And such information may be used in making some input to the hazard map, or the roads which are accessible during the event of the disasters can be also rely on those vehicle data. So it means that the vehicles, cars are becoming an integral part of the social system. So it's no longer B2C, but it is a B2S, and S stands for society. So we started our connected service from the B2C. However, now it is now becoming a B2S at a very fast pace. And now, today, logistics and commercial vehicles and mass operators, they will be also benefited. For example, they face their problems. For example, the logistics system that can avoid traffic congestion. There are many ways that have a connected infrastructure can be utilized by those entities. So now it is also becoming a B2B. That is why we have a mobility service platform as Toyota, and we are proposing this MSPF. As I said, this is a connected infrastructure that can continue evolving. So that's our strength. Another thing I want to say is our dealers. We have a network of dealers globally. In Japan and in the rest of the world, we have dealer network, extensive network, and we have a good collaboration with them. Our car dealers are the people who have the real contact with the customers. And then, as a manufacturer, if we analyze the data collected from the vehicle and give a good analytics, we will be able to offer those information to the dealers so that they will be able to use such information for the customers. And then that means that the Toyota and dealers working together to support the car life of the customers. I think this is another strength of Toyota, that Toyota has a global dealer network. And also, we have developed the data flag structure over the years. So there is certainly a synergy effect of these two strengths. Going forward, for the sake of the society and for the sake of the customers, we will continue to develop new services. And the other part of your question was regarding the bidding of the OTA. That's the second question. Software purchased by billing. I think that in the world of smartphone, this is a norm. Of course, in the car industry, maybe this concept of introducing the billing into our world is also something that we are considering. However, what is the purpose of billing? We have to be very clear about that. The most important point of OTA is to keep customers updated so that they will have access to new functions and new services and new values of the cars on a timely basis. That should be the first and most important purpose of OTA. And only after that, maybe we might want to consider the billing-based service. So we shouldn't put things in wrong order. However, the OTA going forward, we would like to expand. So I hope that you will continue to stay tuned for the Toyota's OTA going forward. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Mr. Katori would like to take the next question now. Mr. Chiba-san from Asahi Shimbun. Chiba-san is trying to connect to us, so just a moment, please. Okay, Chiba-san, please. Hello, this is Chiba from Asahi Shimbun. Hello. I have two questions also. In your presentation, you mentioned geofence technology, and that contributes to the reduction of CO2. And actually, this was the first time I heard about this technology. Could you elaborate this technology a little bit more? Because so it's different from the traditional CO2 reduction technology. Can you also give us how different it is from those traditional technologies with this geofence technology? And then I might overlap with the first question, but this one is about the OTA. In your answer to the prior question, you mentioned that the OTA will be used to deliver new features of a car on timely manner. And in terms of OTA, with the competitor, Tesla, they are very ahead in providing updates, and I think they're already installed in our cars. I'm sorry, but this is about the competitor, but as much as you can tell us, the Tesla's business model and Toyota's OTA model that you're aiming at, if there is any difference in the direction between two, can you elaborate on that too? Thank you. Mr. Chiba, thank you very much for your question. The first question was about geofence technology, which I touched upon in my presentation. As we pursue carbon neutrality at Toyota, we closely pay attention to the fact that we have to unite our effort in dealing with it. When we discuss carbon neutrality, people tend to say that the enemy is the ICE and gasoline, and battery EV is the only savior of the carbon neutrality. That is the typical way that people say. However, we think that for the carbon neutrality, we need to maximize the usage of various technologies and various skills, and we have to continue and complete doing so. Of course, development of battery EV will be pursued. However, as we pursued the development of battery EVs, the energy attributes and the charging attributes of those batteries and electricities have some impact onto the carbon neutrality. That's what we found out. So, yes, we will continue to develop BEVs, but at the same time, we want to also continue to have a different kind of choices so that we can provide different kinds of solutions too. That is the first important point. And the geofence technology is a kind of navigation technology which uses cloud technology. This is used for hybrid cars. The time that the cars are activated with the hybrid and also by motor. And those times should be controlled properly. As we indicated on the PowerPoint slide, depending upon the region, there are some rules and regulations which would only allow battery EVs in certain areas of the city. But when you drive into that city from a far distance, some of the customers have difficulty in charging their cars. And for those people, when they want to go into those restricted areas, before the border, before crossing the border, they can run with the HEV. But within that limited border, they can run with the BEV function. And by using the mapping information and regulation information, they can change the driving mode on real-time basis. This real-time is the key word here, because these regulations can change from time to time. For some reason, this area will be restricted. Only EVs will be allowed to go into this area from the noon and onwards today. Even in such a short time notice, they can get those information from cloud onto their map, then they would know which mode that his or her cars can run. So that kind of geography information onto the map will be combined with the control information under this geofence technology. As I mentioned in my presentation, this is under development right now. In the near future, we will commercialize it. And even before that, in accordance with time and location, the switching of hybrid control will be installed in this new NX. So that is the explanation about geofence technology. Now, moving on to your second question with regards to OTA. So our approach towards the OTA at Toyota, actually, it was quite a long time ago that Toyota first tackled this OTA challenge. It was in 2007. We included OTA in the multimedia product back then. It was called a map-on-demand product, or service rather. The updated map will be distributed. However, in line with this map, software was distributed in combination, which is required for the route guidance, and this service was started in 2008. And since, of course, with the map on demand, we made learnings for the OTA, and in 2017, another multimedia product. When we launched this mass production multimedia product, we enhanced the features of those OTA. It was not limited to map on demand, but those features related to navigation or multimedia, some of the updates were possible back then. And under this structure, from the center side, we were able to build a structure for OTA, and this time, as was mentioned before, we introduced that Mirai and LS, the team made concept, and in this, we provided OTA for driving control. And through these steps, we were able to introduce this new structure in the new NX, and the scope now is wider with multimedia, and on top of that, we have a safety sense at Toyota, and also cockpit, graphic, and meters can be updated through OTA as well. Those will be deployed as time goes by. But with this map on demand, there were great learnings that we gained, and that is to say, by providing OTA, we should not put cars to dysfunctional state. Never. Therefore, we need to be very, very careful in updating our software. When we provided map-on-demand service, there were some lessons that we learned. For example, the updated map did not function, and we had to cause inconveniences to the customers in some cases. So what we learned back then was the priority is safety and security. In other words, we don't want to jump to everything in updating software through OTA all at once. That we need to be very careful with. Having said that, at Toyota Motors, we have a dealership network. OTA is one of the tools, one of the methods to update software. But there are other means in updating software. For example, customers can bring their cars to the dealer, and then by using the overriding software which is installed at the dealer, then the software can be updated. And this has been done for a long time. As one of the examples, Toyota Safety Sense went through a feature upgrade last year. It was not possible to detect the pedestrian before, but with the development now with this, we are able to detect pedestrians, and that upgrade was done through the software at the dealership stores. We used the store tools to do so. And the important point here is that we have to explain the details of this software feature properly to customers when it comes to a safety feature. Unless we explain customers thoroughly, then something wrong might happen. In other words, when we provide OTA updates, we have to be very close to the customers and be in the shoes of customers and think about those features from their perspectives. And because of that, for Toyota Safety Sense updates, we worked together with dealers to update the software. And the staffs at the dealers made a very thorough explanation to our customers about the software updates. So for the software updates, we have OTA updates as well as the software updates through the dealership network. Those two will be combined skillfully in expanding those software updates efforts. This concludes my answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Mr. Chiba from us as well. Let's take a next question. Mr. Naoto Ikeda, please. Now, Mr. Ikeda, if you please. Mr. Ikeda, you are not unmuted. Please unmute. Yes, thank you very much. And good afternoon. And this is Naoto Ikeda. Earlier, already a couple of times, you talked about the importance of your dealer network and showrooms. The biggest strength of Toyota is that you have both the real world and the virtual world. This is my observation for some time now. Now, the dealer showrooms, I know that they are ready to support the customers, but seeing from the engineers, are there anything that can be done only when you have real world or real technologies and so forth? And that makes us easily follow your logic. So I want to ask this question. I have this only question. This is the only question for me. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ikeda. The strength of Toyota, which is the dealers network and also the real-world activities. Thank you very much for acknowledging that part of Toyota's strength. Now, when we try to see situation from the viewpoint of real, it is going to be very broadened. Because what is real maybe is pretty much subjective. Each people have a different definition, and expectation also is different. That is why I say that it is going to be very much broad when we say real. But now, when we say real, the biggest strength is real means genchi genbutsu, according to Toyota's terminology. Going there and having first-hand experience. That is Genchi Genbutsu. And now, for the first time, we used this word, Genchi Genbutsu, together with the word information. And I said the Genchi Genbutsu information in my presentation. About the getting the information means of collecting information, maybe you would like to use communication technologies and IT. So you will be collecting information and data through ICT. But information we are going to gather, we want to gather them at source as much as possible, because that means that we will be able to see better the changes of the world, the changes of customers. We can get those changes earlier and accurately, or understand such changes and have time to consider how to respond if we have those information at hand. But in order for us to be able to work in the real world, of course, you need the real front line or gemba or workplace. And this is where our customers are coming. I mean, we are interacting with the customers. And I think it is very much presumption that we define what real means as a manufacturer. But the important thing is that the customer is the center of everything we do. And we want to see how our real weapons can be useful for the sake of the customers. Or what are the lacking elements of ours in what we have in the real world? Those are the perspectives that are needed when we discuss the real, what is real, and how are we going to interact with the customers. I know that this is not directly answering your question, because as I try to explain myself, I'm also getting a bit confused. But the word real itself, I think I wouldn't have to be too much obsessed with this word of real. What's important thing is that pay attention to the real gemba or the front line and try to see what we can do in the real world. That is the best thing we can do. I'm sorry. I know that this was not maybe answering your question. Well, I know that you are struggling, but the thing from us, there are many things that, for example, you cannot beat with the Google and Amazon. There are many areas that you cannot compete with the big techs. However, in the real world, for example, defects of the vehicles, for example, if you have only virtual things, you cannot replace the screw. But you now have the real prices and real counterpoints with the customer. This is a strength. So I thought that maybe there are things that you'll be able to discover or find only when you have the real, but you don't talk it very openly because you are very much humble. So that's why I asked a question. Well, thank you very much for your advice. It was a very useful advice and observation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Ikeda. Let's move to the next question. Mr. Saito from IT Media, please. Mr. Saito, thank you for waiting. Please go ahead. Excuse me, Ms. Saito. This is Saito from IT Media, and I have two questions. You have 18,000 people as the whole group, and in Volkswagen is saying they are going to gather 10,000 software engineers amongst OEMs. That means quite a large number. But not only hiring them, I'm sure you have to pursue quality. In other words, you not only ask people to be able to deal with the programming language only, they need other skills too. And also, I once heard that software engineers should be more kind to hardware engineers. But if the position of the software engineer are weak, then it will be hard to hire them. So, securing the software engineers with quality, what are the points that you need to pay attention to? And second question is the quality of the software itself. With the overseas OEMs, software related to driving are sometimes distributed to users in the form of database. That's what I heard. Beta, excuse me. And even if it is related to the safety, we wonder if even if it's a beta, we don't know if that is the right thing to do, or sometimes it would enhance the software, so some people agree with it, and they think it's flexible. What do you think about this fact? Do you think the frequency is wanted? Well, even if the frequency is low, you want to stick to the quality. Ms. Saito, thank you very much for your question. I received two. First one is about software talents. I apologize at first that I could not make a clear pronunciation in my presentation. Toyota and Toyota Connected and Woven Planet will have 3,000, and Toyota Group 18,000. Those numbers are correct, but within TMC, there are software internal or people that we would like to increase that number, and I skipped that line. But the overall policy is just what I just mentioned. And regarding the quality of those software engineers, well, it's quite difficult to define the net requirements or quality of those software. That is, I'm sure that is why you're asking this question. But the point here is diversity. Diversity is needed. For example, doctors, medical doctors, or the hospital workers. There are many types of doctors, internalists, and surgeons. And also, there are doctors who are specialized in the medical inspections and checkups. There are some clinical specialized doctors. And also, hospitals would vary from university hospitals to city hospitals to the clinics too. There are many types of doctors, and still society is well run despite such diversity. And I think the same thing can be said for software engineers. In terms of the software terminology, there is a word called architect, or the type of a software called architect. And there are programmers too. And there are different types of programmers, including those programmers who would create features themselves, or those who would conduct tests, and they're called test programmers. And also, there are the so-called project managers who manages those engineering projects, and also the AI technologies are coming into the software industry, AR rather. So the data scientists who can use those AR technologies, that kind of quality is also expected. Like I mentioned, there is a wide scope of software definitions and qualities. And in some, I would call them the diversity. How are we going to secure this kind of a diverse engineering pool? And also, there are different types of software, including OS and safety systems, as well as graphic and navigation and meters. And also, recently, there are many displays on the cockpits in cars. So those are software who have to, software engineers who have to develop those, and also simulation engineers as well. There are vast areas where software engineers are required. In such a way, Toyota, Web Planet, and Toyota Connected, those three companies will properly allocate this diverse pool of engineers, and that is the intention of 3,000 employees and the software engineers, and the hiring will be done on global scale. With such a concept, we are trying to deal with this. Now, regarding the quality of software themselves, we have to secure the quality of software and at the same time need to put those software into market on timely basis. Well, traditionally, for car development, the development duration was quite long. The longest will be 4 years, and it would take at least 2 years, even if it's shorter. The development and assessment and evaluation of the car development, unless all of the softwares are developed, hardwares are developed first, then software could not be developed and assessed. That's why we would first develop the hardware and then the software development will come later. They were serial development. That's why it took a long time. And just like Saito-san said, that's why there might be an impression that software engineers are not treated properly. So in the phase of development, if we can improve the software's quality and become perfect, that was good. However, from here on, we are trying to change the style of the software development, and that's one of the IRENE concepts. We would use simulation more. In other words, before the completion of the car, without the hardware, we could develop software through simulation. And once the software is done, we can install them and combine them with the car, and that's how the vehicles are completed. In other words, the sequence of development are going to be different from the past, and the overall lead time are going to be shorter, and at the same time, the quality can be improved. In the smartphone industry, they have beta version, and they would call it a trial version. And there are some such way to provide software. But in case of vehicles, it is an important industrial product which is related to human life. So it would be very difficult for us to provide software before the completion, because we have to be responsible as a car maker to complete the development of the software before the delivery. I think that is the principle. That's the difference from the smartphone industry. But from the perspective of raising the speed of development, and as we are announcing this from here and there, we want to make the use of motorsport scenes too. New technology and control of cars can be created through motorsports in parallel. And that is done with such purposes. And also the establishment of woven city was such because there are many more things that we can experiment through woven city. There are many ideas to improve the software quality or to create new values. And we would like to keep doing so through our various activities. This concludes my answer. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. That was a question from Mr. Saito. I would like to take a next question. Mr. Keiji Momota, please. Mr. Momota, if you please. Thank you very much. I have two questions. That's the relationship about the city OS entity. You have announced the collaboration with them, so I'd like to know about this city OS. Is it going to be differentiated by the destination or what? And the second is the ICT system during the disaster by utilizing car. The meeting of the March, we had news regarding that. For example, that hazard matter was solved. And there is we have guideline is underway in the industry regarding this area, including that how the cloud can be utilized in the city OS, and particularly in the area of disaster. Both questions are related to city OS. For the city or community OS, how are we going to develop it as Toyota? Regarding to that, first of all, we will start with the woven city. Through this woven city project, we are going to come up with the smart city platform or city OS. We would like to make a concrete picture of that as Toyota. But the smart city platform, which is supported by a city OS, once it is built, you may think it is the end, but it's no longer the case. I mean, it has to continue to be evolved. Or the smart city platform or city OS, the community is receiving that, and also the lifestyle of that community. Depending on that, the smart city platform also changes according to the passage of time. So there's no defined goal in terms of the city OS. We don't have a deadline of coming up with the city OS. We would like to start the smart city platform first, and then give it a try, and then based on the actual experience, we will be able to learn a great deal and can gather findings as the technologies. Maybe we may find situations where we have to develop the technologies yet to exist. But as we continue with the woven city and other projects through the partner companies, we are going to rack our brain and try to come up with those technologies which are yet to be seen. But in Japan, if you look at the Japanese situation, what is often said is the green field and brown field. The difference between the two, when the city is built from scratch, that's a green field. And if the city, the smart city, is built where there is already some city and trying to transform those existing city into a smart city, and this is called brownfield projects. So for both green and brownfield projects, I think there will be something that can be used for both, and there are something that can be only one of the two. So the outcome of the open city, that will be considered as the outcome of the greenfield. However, the deliverables or the outcome of the woven city, some of them can be utilized to the brownfield city. Actually, there are companies and also local governments who consider that even the brownfield projects can be benefited from the results of the woven city. So we are hoping to expand the our activities to cover the brownfield as well. Now, regarding the city OS, what would be the city OS that would be usable during the disaster? I think that was the intent of your second question, and I think you are right. But if you consider that from a viewpoint of the city OS, it will take a long time. I mean, within the JAMA, we are discussing in what way we are able to make a contribution to the situations of the disaster. For example, power blackout. Maybe the electrified cars can be utilized as a power source, and the hazard map can be also use the data from the vehicles, and we will be able to more timely develop the maps by utilizing the vehicle data. And how to share that with the customers. We may have to consider the infrastructure to make that happen. So this is what I describe as a mobility ecosystem. Not just the TMC, but the total automobile industry can get a large amount of information, and we'll be able to create guidelines and rules so that we'll be able to offer those information and findings to the society. And so actually the JAMA is now discussing how we are able to realize that with the collaboration among ourselves. And there are many ideas out of the discussion, and those elements could be incorporated into the city OS so that we'll be able to create a positive cycle. And manufacturer, not only the manufacturers like us, but the local governments or the local residents may also to be working together. So to Mr. Momota, I'm afraid I might not be able to answer your question, but this is all of what I can say regarding your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your question, Momota-san. There are two more questions that we can receive, although we are nearing the end of the questions. So Mr. Hans from Automotive News, please. Mr. Hans Kramer, please. Can you hear me?
Today, Aileen, operating software, OS, Automotive OS についてちょっと聞きたいんですけど。
So my question is about this Automotive OS, the Irene.
いつ導入する予定ですか?
When do you plan to launch it? What is your timeline?
そしてトヨタに対しては
And
どう
also,
いう有利がありますか?
what is the advantage that Toyota has?
そしてその上に客さんの立場から
And from the perspective of customers,
どういう
what kind of
どういう有利がありますか?
what is the advantage from the customer's perspective?
いいところとかいい違いが感じることは何でしょうか?
What is the advantage we can feel?
まあ以上です。
That's all. Yes. Thank you for your questions, Han-san. Your question was about Irene. Currently, Woven Planet is making the best effort to develop Irene platform. If I may take a little bit of time to explain what Irene is, but the details will be shared from the member of Woven Planet or our CDO, James Kaffner. We would like to have him have an opportunity to have him explain the details. But from myself, I would like to talk about the advantage of Irene and Irene system. Well, Irene is a software OS and software platform, and also the development environment based upon this software platform. They are in set. And of course, there are many types of OS, including Microsoft Windows, and Google provides Android, and Linux is another OS. But as for us, we need to secure the safety of cars, and we would like to utilize these features to improve the quality of car, and that is why the Woven Planet is emphasizing this vehicle aspects in its development effort. Once Irene is completed, then this development environment will be complete as well. Now, going back to your question, this development structure itself, or the process itself, will change, and there are such expectations. Even without the hardware, even without the cars and vehicles, we could develop software through simulation. The quality of software will be enhanced, and the software lead time will be shorter. In other words, the quality and lead time and efficiency, they will be fundamentally improved. That is expected out of Irene. So Irene OS and platform will be incorporated into ECU, and we can create software in this development platform. However, as to the timing, it is still an ongoing process, and Woven Planet members are trying very hard every day to develop this, and it's not going to be far in the future. I think that is the best I can say today. It's not something that will be done tomorrow, but Irene itself will make a big change in the car manufacturing, and that is the role it is taking. So as soon as possible, we would like to commercialize ourselves based upon this Irene software platform. Once it's officially decided, we would like to make an official announcement to you. That is all I can say today. Thank you. Would that be 5 years' time, or roughly speaking? More than 5? Or within 5 years? Well, that is a very clear choice. Of course, we would like to commercialize it within 5 years.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to Han-san. Well, regarding his question, that was not available in Japan, but the question was the Irene time schedule and also the benefits of the Irene to the Toyota and also the customers. So let's take the last question. Mr. Kiarashi from Newspeaks. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you. Thank you very much. Because the time is on, so I have just one question for you. In your first presentation, you talked about the internalization. That was one of your important keywords. And in that context, you said that the software engineers, you're going to have many in-house. But on the other hand, Aurora and Tier 4, I know that you are working with them as well. So the software, you are also working on the companies for a startup and in software. So I think that you are not just having your engineers inside, but working broadly with those outside people, startup companies. So I think that this is part of your activities to broaden your partners. And what do you think is the areas that they will be very useful? And in what are the areas where you have your own strengths? So would you like to talk about that? How are you going to use internal resources and the partners' resources effectively? Thank you very much for your question. Yes, the Tier 4 or Aurora, yes, those are the people who are doing the AD technologies, and we have good relationship with those players. And thank you very much for your question. To answer your question, we need to go back to the autonomous driving and automated driving, and also mobility service based on AD. I'll have to start from there to answer your question. The automated driving AD technologies are now being developed by many companies, many players in various parts of the world, including the institutions and startups. Everybody is now doing the studies in AD. And the public road tests is now reaching to tens of thousands of miles. We hear such information and announcements. But when those technologies are matured, how are they going to be incorporated in manufactured goods? When it comes to this, what we're talking about is the cars to be used by the general customers. And in such situations, it would be very much unrealistic to incorporate the full autonomous driving technologies to the cars in terms of the cost. So when it comes to the diffusing or the spreading of this technology, it would not be easy. However, on the other hand, when we look at the society, by utilizing AD technologies, for example, as we are now living in fewer children and aging population, we have fewer people who could work as drivers. And then the robotaxi with the AD technologies or the trucks used in logistics may be benefited from the AD. That will be a great benefit for the society as a whole. So AD is going to certainly solve some of the social challenges. I think that the AD application in that area would be faster than the AD for the actual privately owned cars. Well, actually speaking, in the logistics and also the mass ride-share industry, robotaxi are very much needed. We hear the voices that they want to have robotaxi as soon as possible. So that is the situation, whether it is a robotaxi or truck. When we develop them, there are two important technology areas that we have to consider very carefully. First is Tier 4 or Aurora, and those companies' area. And this is the technologies that have been developed by the specialized AD companies. So this is the AD technology per se. And this is the area where Toyota also is doing our own R&D activities. However, the AD technologies, our primary focus is to eliminate traffic accidents, and we use the expression mobility for all, that is to give the accessibility to mobility to all people, including the aging people or physically impaired people. Even those people, we want them to enjoy driving. So that is the purpose of developing AD. That is the situation of TM, Toyota Motor Corporation. Now, the robotaxi for this area, of course, in the future, we think that that will be spreading. And already, there are many players already doing various technology development for robotaxi and truck. And one of them is Tier 4, and also Aurora is too. So those are the areas where those players are already there, so we'll be able to collaborate with them in robotaxi and robotruck. But the important thing is the second area of technology, and that is just incorporating AD does not make the car as an autonomous driving car. For example, we have to have the redundancy in the system because of regressions or because of the social acceptance. We need, for example, the duplicated braking system or steering system or a power system. Those have to be duplicated, double system. That has to be incorporated. And for this, this is the area that only car makers can work. So the Tier 4 and Aurora, yes, of course, we are doing collaboration. And when it comes to the second area of technology, we continue to pursue the technologies, the development of those technologies, so that we will be able to make sure that the AD developed by those AD specialized companies can utilize some of the technologies that we have developed. For example, Toyota's technology can be combined with the Aurora's technology in area of AD. That is to say, for the AD car to be functioning, we need a center monitoring functions at the centers, and this is also needed. This is actually mobility service platform that I earlier mentioned. So the direction of the development and also the areas of partnership and the relationship of Toyota and players will be different depending on the purpose of the project. But anyway, when it comes to the spreading the AD, well, we think that we need to also work with the other players in the industry. I'm sorry, I talked too long, but this is what I wanted to say to your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Kiarashi. We now would like to conclude the session. Thank you so much for your participation despite your busy schedule.